Your rise to success has been extremely rapid. Were you expecting it to go so quickly?
Well, we always knew Billy was a good tattoo artist.
He was a really good tattoo artist, actually.
Now, does this have anything to do with your rise to success?
As a tattoo artist.
As a rock band.
What?
Your
You got the wrong guy.
Your rise to success as a rock band has been
Look, she wants to be talking to Green Day. They're in the back.
This sound that arose, of which Green Day is an example, was unique to the East Bay.
They're right fine lads, all of them, and you know, they all have good hearts.
They're going to just take it all the way. If no one bought a record, they'd still do it.
Want music that you can feel and that you can have fun listening to, and that's what they were doing.
They're like the Simpsons of punk rock, if you will. And they're also fun, they also play really well.
Green Day were not, of course, an overnight success. It had taken hard work and a steady climb to get to the point where they could claim to be one of the biggest punk bands on the planet. Our story begins in Rodeo.
The area that Green Day grew up in is a combination of working class and suburban.
That whole area is very heavy industry, factories, chemical plants, oil refineries.
But it's certainly a place where it would be very scary to be a punk rocker, at least in those days. Probably not now. Probably you get beat up if you're not a punk rocker now, but back then it was definitely a lot more high risk than it is now.
I think you've got two options. I think a choice to make. You can either become a criminal or you can start a band. And starting a band is there's one advantage, is that when you live in the industrial town, if you've got a band playing in your garage, you're not likely to bother anyone. It's certainly not going to make it as much of a bother as the factory down the street makes.
The start to Mike and Billy Joe's early years was a tough one, despite their talents. One influential music journalist who has interviewed the band throughout their career is JAAN UHELSZKI.
Billy Joe is the youngest child of 6 siblings. His father died. He was a former drummer, and he died of cancer. And so the mother had to support Billy Joe and the rest of the kids, and she was a waitress who worked at Rod's Hickory Pit.
Meanwhile, across town, the young Mike was having a rough time as well.
He was raised by a foster mother, and she's a Native American. He really has a deep kinship with being Native American. And I mean, I think it was troubled. I mean, he talks about a lot of, just a lot of hard times as a child. I mean, he's not totally centered in his body. He's such a genius bass player. I mean, he gets so lost in the groove. But I just think that he's endured a lot of things and really wants to feel safe.
The pair first met when they were aged 10 and recognized in each other a kindred spirit.
These are guys that grew up together. Billy Joe once said to me that Mike Dirnt, he's known since the 5th grade, and he was one of his few friends that knew his father before he died. I mean, there's a bond like that you just can't break.
At age 15, Mike moved in with Billy Joe's family, and to support themselves, found jobs at Rod's Hickory Pit.
He and Mike Dirnt both worked as busboys there. So, I mean, they shared a lot of those things. I mean, they started their band, the two of them, when they were 15 years old. So they've gone, through so much together.
But when were Billy Joe's talents beginning to emerge?
Billy Joe was slightly a prodigy. I think I've heard there's a recording of him playing piano when he's 5. Ding, 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 ding. It's not chopsticks, but it's something like that. And so I think he's actually maybe classically trained.
I know that Billy Joe has been a musician since he was 5 years old. His dad was a drummer, taught him how to play the drums, and at 5 years old he was singing in convalescent homes in Rodeo. So he's always been a musician. I know at least since he was 13 that Mike has been playing the guitar or bass.
But what set Billy Joe and Mike apart from millions of other musicians was their sheer dedication.
They took, you know, what they had in them, their own musical integrity and their stamina and their determination, and went for it and didn't turn back, didn't look back. And I think the results speak for themselves.
And so it was that in 1987 they managed to recruit drummer John Kiftmeyer and began playing as a proper band, Sweet Children, and would play wherever they could be heard.
They were very cute, they were very young, and they were part of a scene that a lot of other bands were in that we were into. They were very young, and so they couldn't play at real clubs, so you'd have to go see them at like pizzerias and, you know, on campus and stuff like that. It was very charming.
I was booking a club. It was an underage nightclub here in Alameda, California, that was called the Twilight Zone. And I booked a band called Sweet Baby Jesus, and they asked me if they could have some of their friends on the show. I said, sure, go ahead. One of the bands that they included was Sweet Children. I think they played first. They were easily the best band of the night. They looked awful. I think Billy had long, I know he had long hair. I can't remember if he had the dreadlocks at that time, and Mike certainly had long hair.
Their passion and energy soon got them a reputation, especially when they began playing at Berkeley's now legendary punk venue, 924 Gilman Street.
I was there during their first show, and they were really young. They just had a really good sound. They weren't wearing leather and spikes. They didn't look like a punk rock caricature. And I specifically remember Mike had hair about down to here, and when he was playing, he, you know, did this with really long hair. But their songs were really, really noticeably melodic, and as everyone knows, Billy Joe's voice is really, really strong.
Billy Joe is a great performer. Duh, obviously, he's a huge rock star now. But when he was, you know, a kid, when he was a teenager, he was totally entertaining to watch, totally energetic. Great, they're great musicians. They fill the whole pizzeria with their sound. I mean, they were great. They were great early on. They were exciting to see. It was a thrill.
They were young guys. They were just there like everyone else, local kids doing it for fun.
One band who performed alongside Sweet Children at 924 Gilman Street was the house band Operation Ivy. Jesse Michaels was the lead singer.
I was involved in Gilman Street, 924 Gilman Street, from the beginning. I was at the first show, and in fact was at some of the meetings when they were planning the place.